The gameplay trailer for the new chapter just dropped, and we've finally gotten confirmation on so much. The trailer kicked off with Poppy saying that everything we've seen so far was just child's play, and that the prison is something entirely different, something truly horrifying. We now have solid confirmation that the new hand is the Red Hand, but one of the biggest reveals in the trailer is that Dr. Harley Sawyer is definitely an anti-hero. Turns out, he's working alongside the prototype. On top of that, I'm beyond thrilled to see that Kissy Missy survived after the incident. The trailer also officially introduced us to a new character, and surprisingly, it looks like they'll actually be on our side. Just as we suspected, it's none other than Doey the Doman. We've also gotten confirmations on a bunch of other mysteries surrounding Chapter 4, and it's time to break it all down. A quick heads up, I might repeat some info from my previous videos, so I apologize in advance if that happens. Let's dive in. Let's talk about what might just be the main antagonist of Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, Yarnaby. This monster is a wild mix of a lion and some kind of plush toy. Technically, he's a lion, but the crazy part is his fur, or rather, the colorful bundles of yarn covering his body. It's definitely a unique design. Yarnaby's standout feature? His ability to open his mouth a full 180 degrees, revealing multiple rows of terrifying razor-sharp teeth. Yarnaby himself is actually Experiment 1166, a former orphan we first learned about back in Chapter 3. Before being turned into one of Playtime Co.'s monsters, this poor kid was one of the brightest children around. His skills genuinely impressed a lot of the employees at Playtime Co. But after a series of experiments that ultimately created Yarnaby, he turned out to be a major failure. Why? Because Yarnaby is, well, kind of an idiot. Interestingly, he was developed under the full supervision of Dr. Harley Sawyer, someone we're already familiar with. According to Sawyer's own reports, Yarnaby was such a disappointment that the doctor eventually decided to isolate him. This left Yarnaby in a pretty lonely situation. His only connection was with Dr. Sawyer, who essentially became Yarnaby's entire world. Sawyer was the only person Yarnaby could trust or even understand, but honestly, this is just a surface-level take on their relationship and Yarnaby's interactions with the other Playtime cover staff. I'm keeping it brief so the video doesn't drag on, but trust me, there's a lot of hidden details here. I'll dive deeper into all of it in future videos. For now, we don't have a solid idea of Yarnaby's actual role in Chapter 4. Remember earlier when I said he might be the main antagonist? Well, there's also a theory that Yarnaby was never intended to be the big bad of this chapter. Outside of a couple of posts mentioning him, there's been no concrete hint that he's going to be the key monster in Chapter 4. This actually starts making way more sense when we think about another new monster that's got all the Poppy Playtime fans hyped right now, Dr. Harley Sawyer. He's the guy behind all the experiments at Playtime Co., which is pretty insane when you think about it. One of the trailers really gave us some major insight into questions we've all been dying to get answers to. But before we dive into that, let me show you the very first time this character got mentioned in the Poppy Playtime universe.
My name is Harley Sawyer. I'm called the Doctor. When I look at this company we've built, I do not feel proud. Declining profits, failed experiments, people are constantly seeing things they shouldn't.
Right now, Dr. Harley Sawyer pretty much is Playtime Co. His mind's been uploaded into the Playtime security system, and his body, fully mechanical. This basically makes him immortal, and the only way to take him out seems to be straight up destroying Playtime Co. completely. With that in mind, it's clear that Dr. Harley Sawyer has total control over everything happening on Playtime Co. property. He's got access to anything with a computer code, which means I'm 100% sure he knows about every single move we make while we're there. Like I said before, we're literally walking around inside his body. On top of that, Dr. Harley Sawyer's got a massive server network directly tied not just to him, but to the player too. The moment we stepped into the building, it kicked off a chain of events that's led us to where we are now. And right at the center of all this madness, Dr. Harley Sawyer. He's looking more and more like the ultimate villain in Poppy Playtime. All the other monsters we've seen in past chapters, they're just his puppets. Honestly, the chances of him being the main antagonist in Chapter 4 are through the roof. And now we've got one last monster to talk about, one we found out about way earlier than Mob Entertainment probably planned, Pianosaurus. Some fans managed to decode an ARG image and came up with a rough sketch of what Pianosaurus looks like, basically leaking info that wasn't supposed to drop yet. After that, Mob pretty much had no choice but to confirm the fan theories. There's not a ton we know about this guy so far, other than the fact that he's a dinosaur with a bunch of piano keys on him and can play different melodies. Honestly, I'm not really sold on the idea that Pianosaurus is going to play a major role in Chapter 4. Out of all the new locations teased so far, the prison has caught the most attention from fans. This place seems to be where they held experiments on the monsters. That's right, the same Braun we saw in the recording, he went through this place too. The areas shown in that footage are most likely parts of the prison. The prison has a distinct symbol, 3 empty squares inside each other. Size-wise, it's no small facility. Just from a few trailers, we already know about at least 3 sections of it, though we won't know the full scope until January 31st. One trailer showed us the main entrance, which doesn't seem too special at first glance. But if you take a closer look at the floor, you'll notice some markings. After thinking about it for like 2 seconds, it's clear these are patterns from kids' games. The second known section is the main lobby. It's kinda similar to the lobby from Chapter 1. This area was clearly a hub for Playtime Co. staff. Looking up at the ceiling, you can even spot windows letting in that artificial light from PlayCare. When you connect this with the entrance area, it's obvious that kids used to come here before they were turned into monsters. One of the leaks backs this up too. The third confirmed section is the holding or living cells for the kids. Based on the images, these cells were ridiculously small, with almost no light except for a couple of bulbs inside each room. From the trailer, we also learned that every cell had a system for releasing the infamous red gas we encountered in Chapter 3. Of course, this was used to knock out the kids before subjecting them to experiments, just like the orphans from the last chapter. And then there are the doors leading to the cells. I won't even start on how unsettling they are. But here's a thought. Why would Playtime Co. install such massive doors for kids? There's no way a child could handle even a regular metal door, let alone these. I've got a few theories, but I'm curious. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Now that we've covered the prison, it's time to move on to another new location. Or, well, not entirely new. I'm talking about the caves. This area acts as a link between the prison and other parts of the factory. Like the prison, the cave system is massive and can also be split into multiple sections. The first section of the caves was teased in the very first trailer where Baba Chops was introduced, the toy graveyard. If you take a good look, it's clear this area is filled with literal tons of dead and destroyed toys. At some point in Chapter 4, we'll definitely find ourselves here while making our way to the prison. The second section is the mines. These mines in Playtime Co.'s territory could serve all kinds of purposes, like running pipes or moving failed, dead, or overly aggressive experimental monsters. Alternatively, they might have been designed as emergency evacuation routes for Playtime Co. staff to escape the prison quickly and safely, if needed. There's no solid info yet, so we can only speculate. This kind of location is completely new for us. Finally, the third section is just the general underground areas. Honestly, I'm almost 100% sure these spots won't hold any big secrets or answers. These so-called dungeons will probably just be transitional zones. Like in Chapter 3, the most we'll likely get out of them are some puzzles to solve as we pass through. And the last new location we know for sure about is the regular work areas, spaces reserved exclusively for factory employees. These spots probably won't play a huge role in the Chapter 4 storyline, but they're still incredibly important for filling in the gaps. Why? Because it's in these rooms that we can find various tapes, the key to uncovering more about Playtime Co.'s operations and its dark history. These work zones act like little treasure troves of lore, giving us deeper insights into the company's secrets and past. We've already broken down some of the key elements of Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. We're all pretty familiar with the VHS tapes from the previous chapters of Poppy Playtime. They've served as a key source of information about Playtime Co.'s dark past, or just plain scared us, sometimes doing a pretty good job at it. But about 8 months ago, the first official Poppy Playtime book was released. What caught the attention of fans was the teaser image of the book. Alongside it on the table, we could spot a tape recorder and a small audio tape. Now circling back to that trailer with the new hand, we see a similar table with what appears to be the same tape recorder. And this hints at something big. This could be Dr. Harley Sawyer's office. Interestingly, this office seems to echo the vibe of the iconic Elliot Ludwig's office. Considering how crucial Dr. Harley Sawyer is to the storyline of Chapter 4, the secrets hidden in his office could hold immense value for the narrative. And one of our key tools for uncovering those secrets will likely be the audio tape recorder, which we've now spotted multiple times. And that's a wrap for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.